Okay, I think we are going to get going. So, welcome everyone. This is our Career Spotlight 1 session on our Step into the NHS Day. My name is Abby and I'm from the NHS Health Careers team. We are really pleased that you are all joining us today. Some of you might have joined our welcome session, which was first thing this morning. So welcome back if that's the case, but maybe this is the first session that you've joined today. So a very big welcome to you. I wonder where you're all from. Schools all around the country, I'm sure, which is brilliant, and all here to find out more about careers in the NHS. And to hear from some guests, and we're going to be joined by Beth and Matondo in a minute. Okay, a little bit of housekeeping first. So if you are struggling to hear, just make sure your speakers are turned up. If there are still issues with sound, please try leaving the Teams call and then rejoining. That sometimes sorts sound issues out. Everyone is muted and your cameras are off, and we're recording the session, but the chat is open, so please do. We'll be asking you to put some things into the chat, so be ready to do that. Feel free to use Teams reactions as well throughout the session. We would love to see what you're thinking about the session as we go along. Okay, so that's the housekeeping bit done. So what is this session all about? This session is called Guess the Job Role. You're going to be meeting Beth and Matondo, and you're going to be guessing their job role because they are going to give you some clues, and then you've got to try and work out what their job role is. Okay, so they will reveal their job at the end, and then you have the chance to ask them your questions live. So this is such a great opportunity. You've got Beth and Matondo almost in the classroom or the school hall with you, and you'll be able to ask them your questions. So please make sure that you think of some really great questions to ask them at the end. Okay, so remember, hopefully you have got your worksheets as well, or some paper or a notebook or something in front of you, and you can make sure that you're jotting down things that you're learning through this session, things that you think sound interesting, and things that you might want to use in your competition entry. Okay, and teachers, if you can be ready to put your pupils' answers into the chat when we get to that point, that would be brilliant. Okay, so let's meet our first great guest. So we're going to play Guess the Job Role with Beth. So welcome to you, Beth.
Hi, everyone.
How are you doing today, Beth?
I'm good, thank you. How about you?
Yeah, I am very well, thank you. Really pleased to be here. How are you feeling about this session?
I'm really excited. It's really cool to see so many schools on the call. So yeah, welcome everyone.
Brilliant. Okay, so Beth, I'm going to ask you to give us your first clue in a minute. Pupils, remember to be ready with your pen or your pencil to note down things as we go through. Okay, so Beth, let's have your first clue, please.
Okay, so this is clue number 1. I study to become an expert in taking care of children and making sure they stay happy and healthy.
Okay, right. What are you starting to think, everyone? Have you got any ideas yet? A couple of people have put some things in the chat already. We've got midwife, doctor, psychiatrist. Let's hear your second clue, please, Beth.
Okay, so I'm very caring, patient, and love helping others. I also am a great listener, and I love making children feel comfortable and safe.
Oh, okay. So we've got some more guesses coming in now. Children's nurse, children's mental health practitioner, therapist, children's doctor. Lots of great guesses. Let's have your final clue, please, Beth.
Okay, cool. So I often spend time in hospital working alongside doctors to take care of children and nurse them to back to their normal health. And I'm very impressed by how many jobs you guys are naming. Like that is
Yeah,
very
look at
impressive.
this.
Some very good jobs that you're naming.
Brilliant. And you gave us some pretty hefty clues in that last clue there, I would say, Beth. So I can see lots of guesses of children's nurse or pediatric nurse, which is another name for it coming in. Play therapist, that's a good guess as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Receptionist, dentist, lots of nurses coming in, therapists. So well done, everyone, for thinking about this. So hopefully you're having a chat to the person next to you and getting your guesses in. Physiotherapist, that's another one that's coming from West Ham Church School. Pediatrician, and someone saying it's children and adolescent mental health services. But there are all of Beth's clues all on one slide there. But we've had so many great responses in the chat. So Beth, I think it's time. Shall we hear what your job title is, please?
Okay, guys, you're going to do a little drum roll in your classrooms. So I am a children's nurse. A lot of you got it right, so well done. And that is a little photo from Christmas Day this year with my snowman antennas on.
Brilliant. Love that. Thank you, Beth. So you might want to use Beth's job role in your competition entry, pupils. So have a think about that and have a listen, because we are now going to hear a little bit more about Beth's job role. So Beth, so obviously some of this information might be really, really helpful for the pupils in terms of thinking about their competition entries. What does a typical day look like for you?
So, as a children's nurse, I work on intensive care. That's my specialty. So, that's where kind of the sick children go that are really quite poorly. And so, a normal day for me, I'll have one child that I'm looking after. It could be a baby, literally the size of my hand or smaller, or it could be a big, tall 18-year-old, anything in between. And yeah, I just make sure that they keep safe and healthy and try and get them better so they can go home soon. So, it's all about basically doing what the doctors tell me to do and yeah, supporting the family. And I also work with all the different professionals that you guys named. So whether I work with a play therapist or I might work with mental health services, all these important people, and we all work together as a team to make sure the child stays healthy and happy.
Brilliant. And that's such an important point you've made there about the whole team working together. So that's great. So I'm just going to ask you one more question, Beth, but teachers, if you can start to gather questions from your pupils, please, and put them into the chat so we can ask Beth in a minute. Beth, what would you say the key qualities that you need for your role?
I think you need a lot of patience because people don't always get better quickly. And you've also, it can be very scary being in hospital with especially children. So it's making sure that you're patient, you're always kind, and that you're always trying to think about what it's like to be them. Because I think once you stop forgetting what it's like to be them, that's when you're not as good as a nurse. So it's about, yeah, being fun as well, because who doesn't love a bit of fun? So I've always got some bubbles in my pocket or my snowman antennae on, something fun. Because, what's the point if you're not having fun?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Thank you. Okay, so we are going to go to questions from all the pupils watching in a minute. But just before we do that, we have got an awesome pre-recorded question from a pupil in a school in Welling. So maybe you're watching that school in Welling. So this is your moment, and I am just going to play this, I hope, so that everyone can hear the question and then we can get Beth's answer to it. Okay, I don't know if that was quite quiet, but what was the hardest part of your training, Beth?
Thank you. So I would say it is quite hard work, but it's very interesting. And there's lots of learning to do. Plus, it's really practical. I'm not someone that likes sitting at a desk. So it's really practical learning. I was always on placement, going to all these different really interesting specialities, learning about all the different types. So we've got, like, for example, the emergency department, all the way to like cancer services. But it's quite hard to keep adapting, going to all these new different places. But it's very good learning opportunities, and definitely for people that don't like sitting down all day, who like being active, moving around, speaking to lots of different people. So yeah, I think it's a lot to learn, but really interesting. So that's quite hard.
Brilliant. That's great. So thank you for that great question from that school in Welling, and Beth, thank you for your answer. Okay, so let's take some questions from you or watching that. There are so many questions coming in, so bear with me while I just scroll back through some of them. And we're not going to be able to get through all of these, I'm afraid, but we'll try and get through as many as we can. So Freddie has asked, if someone wanted to be a student nurse, what advice would you give? Great question.
Oh, that is a very good question. I would say just give it a go, basically. You've got nothing to lose. It's worth a try. And being a student nurse is great because you can just try everything. The worst people can say is no. So I was always like, oh, can I try this? Can I do that? Can I get involved with this? And you get some crazy opportunities, like you could potentially go into the ambulance service for the day. You could go to theatre and watch an operation. There's lots of cool learning opportunities.
Oh, brilliant. That sounds like there's a lot of variety as well. This is from Stephanie, why did you choose to be a nurse?
So my brother was a long-term patient at Birmingham Children's Hospital, and that's where I did all my training. So I think growing up, I was used to being in hospital with my brother. So that kind of inspired me to become a nurse.
Oh, wow. So that kind of personal experience. Um, where did I saw a great question and now what qualifications do you need? And I'm going to combine this with another question, which is quite a few people have asked how long it takes to train to be a nurse.
So to do nursing, you either need A levels, so that's what you do at secondary school, or you need a BTEC. I think it's BTEC. It's in like go to college. That's after secondary school. So once you turn 18, you can then become a nurse. So you then can either do an apprenticeship route, which takes a bit longer, and you kind of work your way up to become a nurse, or you can go straight to university, and that takes 3 years.
Okay, thank you. And how many children do you treat a day?
So on my ward, I just look after one child, but our ward is the biggest intensive care in Europe. So we have 35 children, which might not sound like very much. So I bet there's 35 children in some of your classrooms, but we've got humongous monitors and we take up a whole floor of the hospital. So it's quite big. But yeah, I only look
Wow.
after one a day.
But if you were in other areas and probably during your training, you did areas where you might have looked after quite a lot of children one day, I guess.
Yeah, so on a ward, you'd look after 4 or 5 children.
Okay. Right. I'm going to squeeze in a question about another role here, actually, which you will have come across, I think, Beth. So Georgia has asked about what a play therapist does. I'm imagining that you probably have worked alongside play therapists. Are you able to tell us a bit more about that?
So a play therapist, let's say a child's very worried about being in hospital, they're a bit scared of something that's going to happen. They'll come in and they'll basically distract them. So our play therapists, some of them have like VR headsets, they will have like Play-Doh, arts, crafts, and they'll come and play with you so that you feel a bit more at ease. And then they kind of talk through what's going to happen. And it's basically just have a bit of fun in hospital and also calm nerves and kind of they're there for mental health support as well. And they support parents.
Great. That sounds like a great job, doesn't it? Palgrave Class 3 have asked, do you work the night shift?
Yes. So I work day and night shifts. So my shifts are either 7 in the morning until 8:30 at night, or they're 8 in the evening until 8 the following morning.
Okay. And then you go to sleep in the day, hopefully, if you've
Yes.
worked that night shift.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, Lucy's asked whether you ever get scared in your job.
Yes. Sometimes it is a little bit scary. I always find the little babies scary because I was looking after a baby the other day that was smaller than my hand and they can be a bit unpredictable. So they scare me a little bit. But other than that, you learn lots and you grow in confidence. But I think everyone, no matter what job you do, you get a little bit scared sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so year six at St Simon's have asked, great question. What do you do to comfort children when they are crying or distressed? And Mariam asked that question.
Ah, very good question. So it kind of depends what age they are. Now, the little babies, we've actually got little sugar syrup that we put on their dummies, and then that makes them really happy because who doesn't love? It's basically like giving them a lollipop. We've got to love a lollipop. And then it depends how old they are. If they're, I don't know, a teenage boy, quite often, or girl, we'll put the football on, put something on that they like. As a lot of them are very sporty. So it's, finding what they like and then bringing it into their day.
Great, thank you. Aim is asked, and this is a great question, where would you like this job to take you? So where could this go in the future, Beth?
It's a very good question. So I'm currently doing an extra qualification so that I'm kind of a bit more confident in my intensive care role, learning how to look after some of the sicker children. And I would love to actually, this is quite different from nursing, but alongside my nursing, do a bit of like expedition medics. That's where basically I go abroad and let's say people want to climb Mount Everest, I'll go along as a medic. So that's something you can actually do from nursing. I'm also interested in trying cruise ship nursing, which is basically you go on a cruise ship, but you're the nurse on the boat and things like that. So lots of different things that I want to try. They're actually outside the NHS, but do it alongside my current role, if that makes any sense.
It does, yes, and that sounds really exciting. It sounds like there are loads of options out there for you. Okay, so we have got time for one more question. And I am just trying to you've answered lots of these, which is great, but I just want to try and find one more. So you've told us how old the patients are. You've told us what inspired you. Someone's asked if you have to go to university to be a nurse, but you've answered that. Okay, let's end with this one actually, which is a practical question. Should we wash our hands to make sure we don't spread germs?
Yes. You can't wash your hands too much. I probably wash my hands about 10 times an hour in my job, and I'm not even joking. So yes, wash your hands.
Great. Okay, Beth, thank you so much for answering all those great questions. Thank you, pupils, for all those really good questions. I'm sorry that we didn't get around to answering all of them, but hopefully that's given you a really good kind of idea of what Beth does and what she enjoys. So hope you enjoyed that first part of the activity. Please do put a Teams reaction in if you want to do that. And we are now going to hear from our next speaker. So you're going to be guessing his job role now, Matondo. Remember, use your worksheets, gather the information. You might want to use it for your competition entry. Okay, now I do just need to say, let's Matondo, please do join. Just to let you all know that because of some staff sickness in Matondo's team today, there is the potential for him to need to leave, but we're hoping we'll be able to hang on to him for the next kind of 10 or 15 minutes. So welcome, Matondo. You're on.
Morning, everyone.
There you go. Brilliant. Thank you for joining us. Matondo, how are you feeling about being here for the session today?
Oh, I'm excited about it and seeing so many pupils and schools joining in today. I'm excited to participate and to hear all the questions.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for being here. Remember, pupils, be listening to what you're hearing and things that you find interesting. So let's not waste any more time. Matondo, could you please give us your first clue?
Clue number one, I'm in charge of making sure everything runs smoothly on station where vehicles are prepared before assisting people in need of urgent medical help.
Okay, what are you all thinking about that? So we've already got some guesses coming in there, Matondo. Let's have your second clue, please.
Second clue, I'm very organised. I work with doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals to make sure patients get the care they need quickly.
Okay, right. So a little bit more information there for you to be thinking about. So many guesses. Lots of really good guesses there, but let's hear your final clue, please.
I'm very organised, calm under pressure, and great at solving problems to keep the station running smoothly.
Fabulous. Okay, so let's see all of the clues on one slide, just to remind you all. So we have got emergency call handler, runs the ambulance station, paramedic and driver. I think I saw dispatcher in there earlier. Yep, dispatcher's come back again. Newminster Middle School has guessed that. So many people guessing paramedic here. Emergency responder is a guess that's just come in here. call handler, I think I might have said that already. Paramedic manager, security. Oh, so many. Oh, there's some more. Call room operator. So let's hear from Matondo. Matondo, can you please tell us what your job title is?
So my job title is a paramedic, and I'm also a team leader, or also known as a manager.
Brilliant. I think you all did fantastically well there, because pretty much everyone guessed that you worked in the ambulance team, Matondo, didn't they? And there were variations on roles, but we have got ambulance station manager here as well from Lynn. So well done, all of you, for guessing that. That's the reason Matondo might have to nip out quickly today, because if something serious happens, he might get called out to have to go and deal with that, and to manage it and make sure there are the right staff available, the right vehicles, all of that kind of thing. So well done, everyone. And we are now going to hear a little bit more about Matondo's role. Maybe you want to think about this role as your competition entry. So Matondo, what is actually, I'm going to ask a question that's come into the chat now, because I think it'd be helpful for people who aren't quite sure. Could you just very quickly tell us what a paramedic is?
So a paramedic is someone who works for the ambulance service, and when you call 999 or 111 for medical advice, sometimes you might get an ambulance come to you. So a paramedic is someone who is trained and has been to university, and has got the medical skills to be able to assist you, to treat you, and to either refer you on to hospital or other medical locations. So the title paramedic just means someone who has been to university and is trained medically to assist. But there is other roles within the ambulance service.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. That's just really helpful, I think, for people to understand what the job is. So what's a typical day like for you, Matondo?
So a typical day, starting my shifts, I'd normally work sometimes on a big ambulance, where it's a big yellow ambulance, and when someone has called 111 or 999, I might attend and treat them. There's different range of medical problems that they might have called for, such as someone who's fallen and they've only banged their head, or someone who's hurt their leg and it's broken, or maybe someone who's been involved in a road traffic collision. And we go to many different locations, whether it's outside, in a care home, in someone's house, bedroom. So it changes. However, my other role as a team leader, it involves the day-to-day of making sure ambulances are going out to patients, making sure vehicles which are off the road, we get them to a mechanic or someone to come and fix it.
Yeah, and you mentioned mechanics there. A lot of people might not think about the fact that we need mechanics in the NHS as well, don't we? And Matondo, I'm going to ask you one more question. I don't need to remind pupils and teachers to be getting their questions into the chat, because there are loads coming in, so that's brilliant. What would you say are the key qualities you need for your job, Matondo?
So the key qualities to become a paramedic or work within the ambulance service: you need good communication skills. You need to be able to speak effectively, whether it's by writing or verbally. So if you've got good communication skills, it's very important. Being polite is a thing as well, because you might meet someone who's not polite, who's aggressive towards you, but by you being polite, you can calm the situation, which also goes with kindness. If you're kind to people and you're respectful, is some of the key qualities that you need. And being someone who's caring in nature is very, very important in this job role.
Yeah, brilliant. And that's interesting, because Beth talked about that as well. So there are some shared qualities, aren't there, amongst roles within the NHS. Great stuff. So we are going to be taking your questions just in a second. But before we do that, Matondo, I would just like to ask you the same question that came in from the school in Welling that we asked Beth, which was what was the hardest part of your training to become a paramedic?
I would say the hardest part was remembering pretty much the different medical conditions that people suffer with, remembering the different pathways not everyone needs to go to hospital. Some you refer them to alternative care pathways, which is an urgent care, or to a GP or other healthcare professionals. So remembering those things is the hardest, and as well the whole education. It's not easy. However, you've got to put the work in to be able to succeed.
Brilliant, thank you. Right, pupils, let's get going with your questions. There are so many of them. Let's see, Matondo, you and I, let's see how many we can get through in the next few minutes. We've got about 6 minutes, I reckon. So I'm going to combine a couple of questions. How long did it take you to train to become a paramedic? And then what did you have to do to become a team leader? And that last bit of the question was from Liz.
So there's various routes into becoming a paramedic, which you can apply at an ambulance service and then work from a paramedic assistant, and then being trained within the ambulance service through apprenticeships or other opportunities, and then they'll put you through the university. However, if you apply through a university through UCAS, generally most courses are 3 years at university. However, some unis are offering 4 years, which the first 2 years you're as a student training at university and on placement. The third year is you working and getting exposure and experience, and in the fourth year you go back to uni. So there's various different routes.
Okay, and what about the how you became a team leader?
So team leader, you need enough experience on the road as a paramedic. Generally, you need at least 3 years or 4 years of experience on the road, and then you apply for a job position. With hopefully within that time you've gained extra qualifications and exposure to different kinds of jobs to be able to manage the teams and also to be able to perform as a team leader.
Brilliant, thank you. A lot of people want to know how fast you're allowed to drive in an ambulance, Matondo. We can't ignore that question. It's been asked so many times. Well, and do you need, actually, sorry, I'm just going to combine that. So High Week Primary School have asked, do you need a special driving licence?
So when you're doing your paramedic training and when applying for a job, you need to have your full car driver's license, which is a B category. So you need that. And then when you're applying for a job or for university, you need something called a C1 driver's license, which is for heavy goods vehicles. So for lorries and vans. So you need that driver's license. And then when you've got the job, you need to go for another driving assessment through the ambulance service, where they train you how to drive the ambulance safely on non-blue lights and on blue lights, which is another 3 to 4 weeks of assessments there. And in terms of driving fast, you have to drive fast safely. It's not about driving fast, but it's getting to the emergency safely. There might be other times where you're driving within a normal speed limit on blue lights, but it's all about the safety. And driving fast, you see it, but you need to be there safe. One, for you and your colleague and other road users as well.
Yes, good point. Thank you. So couple more questions. So how many call outs do you get in a shift, and how long's a shift as well that you work?
So a shift generally changes from a 12-hour shift or a 10-hour shift that we tend to do. So I tend to do quite a lot of 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. Or 6:30 a.m. start till 6:30 at night. But there is some shifts that start at 6 o'clock. And then there is other shifts that start at 6 p.m. Till 6 a.m. So there's a variety of different shifts in the ambulance service to make sure we're covering for breaks and we're getting the ambulances out there to patients as well. So on a general, for example, 12-hour shift, depending on the cases that you're dealing with, depending on welfare that you might need as well after the incident, because as you know, some incidences you might need to have that welfare because you're quite emotional given the nature of it. But generally you tend to do somewhere between 4 and 6 call outs, but it can be more or it can be less. It just depends.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Lila in year 3 has asked, why did you want to work for the NHS?
It's a childhood dream. Since I was 15 years young, I've always wanted to work in the ambulance service. I used to watch a lot of medical shows, and then I did my own researches online. And when I was looking at the skills and qualities that you need to be a paramedic, such as, good communication skills, people skills, those kind of things, I felt like I had it. And then I started looking at different courses and how to become a paramedic.
Great. And here you are now. Brilliant. Okay, I'm just trying to find some more. Where was it? There was one about a similar one to the one for Beth, actually, about, oh, here we go. So New Hay CP, not sure what that stands for. Do you ever get scared or upset?
I do. I'm a human being like everyone. There is incidences where you go into a location because of the neighborhood, because of the house. There's times where I feel frightened to go in, especially when I work alone as a team leader on a small ambulance car. There's times where I have to bring a torch to brighten up the area, or just for my own kind of safety. But should I be scared, or should an incident where there is violence and aggression, on our radios, there's a red button that we can press, which alerts the emergency control, and they can get the police. But there is incidences where I do get upset. For example, if someone's passed away, where there has been occasion where you're talking to the patient because of the medical events has happened, and they might go unconscious in front of you. So it does get emotional, and there's certain jobs where it does hit you more than others, such as if I do go to a pediatric or so, such as a small child, it does hit home because I've got younger siblings as well.
Yeah, so that's part of, I guess, what you're learning during your training, how to manage that. And as you say, it sounds like there's good support there for you if you need it. Great stuff. Okay, so I'm looking at the time, but I'm going to squeeze one more question in, Matondo, which is one from Chiltern Academy, and they're saying, how do you know which patient you are going to assist? So yeah, that's a really good question. How does that work?
So in the ambulances, we've got a monitor. It's like a small iPad that we've got on the screen in front, and then we've got our radios. So when a job comes in, it comes on our little small screens. It tells you the location, it tells you the age, the name of the patient, and it tells you a brief information what you go into. Depending on the seriousness of the call out, sometimes you don't get that information up until you're en route. But you do get information, you know what we're going to, and depending on the call out, control might buzz you up on the radio and tell you some more information as they're coming on. But we do get information, and you sometimes prepare yourself, but sometimes you don't prepare. You're not able to prepare yourself, and when you arrive, that's when you see what you're faced with.
Yeah. Great. Oh, Matondo, thank you so much for your time today. I'm glad you didn't get called away, and I hope your rest of your shift is a calm one. Pupils, thank you so much for all your great questions. As I said, I'm sorry we didn't get around to all of them, but so many, which is brilliant. But hopefully you've learned lots, and it's given you something to go away and think about. So, teachers, just a reminder, if you wanted to use this time now for the one lesson launch, then everything's there for you to use to get the competition going. So the link is going to be in the chat for you. But just to finish with a massive thank you to all of you for joining this session. Please try and be at the next session. So we have got another session at 1:30, so probably after your lunchtime. So you'll all be fueled up, ready for the afternoon. So at 1:30, we have got a day in the life of a radiographer and a doctor. And for those of you that were on the first session this morning, you'll be meeting Takanai again, who we met briefly earlier on. So really hope you can join us then. You'll be following them around on video as we learn more about their job roles. And again, you can be noting down key facts on your worksheets, but also you'll have the opportunity to ask them questions too. So we really hope we see as many of you as possible at 1:30. Use the same Teams link as you did for joining this one. You don't need anything different, just use the same one. We have got some information going into the chat as well if you've got questions, because we've got a way that you can contact us if you've got questions during today or after today around careers or the competition. So thank you again. Thank you to Beth and Matondo. Thank you to all of you for joining, and hopefully see you at 1:30. Bye.